Hey everybody, it's me, Sara Wiseman. Welcome to Spiritual Psychic, and on this program, we attempt to dive into some of the larger energy streams that we're facing and kind of make sense of those for our own lives. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I'm not an astrologist. I wish I were, but my mind does not compute the angles and the degrees. It just doesn't. But what I do is I'm a psychic and I'm a channel. I've been that way for eons. And so I like to pay attention, especially to what some of the really high level astrologists are saying in terms of what things are happening. And then I like to tune in to the psychic realm or the channeling realm and feel what's happening from that part. So astrology, we might say, is a way of analyzing through the planetary movements. And what I think that I'm doing is sensing the group energy or the energy in the collective, all of humankind, not necessarily regionally. I tend to tune into the globe, like what's happening on the globe in terms of all the various changes going on. So that's what I want to try and keep presenting to you now. At time of recording, we are at end of 2024. And at time of recording, we are, like, I think people will look back and go, wow, those people were there at the beginning of the dawn of the age of Aquarius. Those people were there. And just yesterday, depending on when you're watching this, but just yesterday, we had the conjunction of 3 planets, and we also had Pluto going into, like, officially going into Aquarius. So there are lots of other influences going on, but what I am feeling as the bigger stream of energy in the collective is not just the normal, everything's going to change. That's kind of always happening. But really this sense of however things were, especially the last 4 years, 6 years, however things were, this is over. This is ending. And so you may be feeling that you want to make changes in your own life. And this is the correct feeling. And this probably has to do with, depending on your own situation, but it probably has to do with your boundaries, how you're showing up in relationship to others, and what you're allowing to happen, how others are treating you and what you're allowing. And obviously we've been working on boundaries, especially for disenfranchised groups. We've been working on boundaries for many decades now, probably around, the 60s. We started this civil rights, human rights, women's rights, gay freedom, just all of these things, environmental rights. Like, we started to kind of wake up. So I would almost term this as the next wave, or the second wave of, like, that was the beginning of our inklings of the Aquarian age. Even Hair the musical back then, the dawning of the age of Aquarius. But now we're in this place where we've had a couple generations to be exposed to those ideas. So we might look at, a lot of us had parents in the 50s, 60s, depending on when you were born. And so they were kind of coming into that influence. And then maybe you were born in the 50s or 60s or 40s or 70s or whenever you were born. So you were kind of right smack in this generation that was exposed to these ideas. Or maybe you're one of those who were the parent, or you were born into it, and then you maybe had kids, or you knew younger generations. And so by now we've got multiple generations that have come up through this new understanding. And as we know, when multiple generations come up through new understanding, everything shifts. This is very similar to when a lot of our maybe grandparents or great grandparents immigrated to, say, the US as example. A lot of people immigrated to a lot of different places. I'm just using that as one idea. The first group was traditional, holding on to the old world. The next group was integrating. The next group was rebelling. And then the next group, the great grandkids, were really not having much flavor or much understanding at all of what it used to be like, what it was like in the old country, what the traditions were, what the beliefs were, what the religions were, why the people left. None of that was there anymore. As each generation arrives, the understanding changes. So we've had, I'd say, at least 4 generations since the 60s, and maybe even more. And now all of these people are getting old enough to have an impact. So we've got different layers. We've got the elders who are like, yeah. We've got the junior elders who are, raised and steeped in this stuff. We've got the adults who are actively like in the world making stuff happen. We've got the younger adults who are about to launch, and we've got the younger teens who actually at this stage, those generations have extreme influence because they understand how to use social media, so they're available to be a part of the equation in ways that when you and I were teens, we didn't have that kind of influence. That a lot of people with different ideas of then how things were. So all of this movement in the collective is happening. All of these ideas, these Aquarian ideas, liberty, fraternity, the French, the brotherhood, equality, humanitarianism, respect for all beings, being visionary, all of these ideas are coming to the forefront. And of course, these are the opposite of the ideas that we used to have in the old realms, which were, and I don't want to oversay this, but it's so true, is they were patriarchal, they were misogynist, they were based on power, unshared power. They were based on greed. They were based on a hierarchy where one person receives all the benefits and goods, and the rest are just this kind of feudal system below, the serfs and the collective masses, working for the man, or whatever, however you want to put it. But this is going back generation after generation. And as we're seeing with Pluto going into Aquarius, so we've talked about this before. Pluto was in Capricorn. Capricorn was like from 1778. Pluto was in Capricorn. So 248 years of the old way being the dominant vibe. And now the dominant vibe has changed. And this is why you're hearing everyone talk about the tumbling of the old structures, And the old structures are, in a nutshell, from how I receive it and how I with the language that I would use, the old structures are based on separation. They are based on the idea that people aren't equal. They're based on the idea that not everyone or every being has value. They're based on this idea that there's an elite group that deserves to have more or have better. And there's this idea of almost like this divine right of kings, where this elite group, not just kings, not just monarchy royalty, but the elite group of corporate structure, of political structure, of religious structure, these elite groups in power, especially the corporate globalization, because they're in their position that they deserve more, and because they're in their position that the rules don't apply to them. So this stream of consciousness, somebody's better than you, you're less than someone, you're better than someone, someone's less than you, competition, but not even competition, the competition is skewed, like the competition is so unfairly positioned. If you aren't like born into it, you don't ever have a chance. If you're not the right color or the right gender, or you don't have the right history, or you don't have the right, in the old ways, like the country club or the golf course or whatever, if you're not, or the celebrity status, if you're not in it, you don't belong. So again, this collective stream, the Capricornian, is going away. And it's going away right now. Right now, everything's shifting. And so it would not be abnormal, or it would be usual for you to feel very different at this time. It would be very usual. And so what are some of the ways that you are feeling different? So I would suggest that we're obviously starting to notice a lot of these things that happened, like Me Too movement it's still ongoing, very important, but it seemed to have a heyday a couple years ago. All of these aspects of, especially men being caught out for sexual abuse as they rose to power. More currently, all of these ideas about large corporations not being responsible to those who they're supposed to be caretaking for or share-taking for. The big political changes of attempting to put into office people that are like completely inappropriate, that have absolutely no qualifications for the job. Like just go out at random on the street and pick somebody. It would be better than some of the picks that have been floated forward. Just okay, that's not going to work. And then, so that's not going to work. It's all going to fall down. I'm not too concerned about it, actually. It's all going to fall apart. None of this has any kind of stability to it. But what you might be feeling in your life is a big shift in how you want to show up and what you're going to accept from those around you, and especially from those in the old power structures. So you may no longer be comfortable with a work situation where you're not respected, or you may no longer be comfortable with a work situation where you're not paid enough, or you're asked to overwork, or you have to, you're given you can no longer work at home if you've been working at home for the last few years. You're just like, no, I have value. Without me and without the all of me's, company can't move forward. So there may be some suggestion of boundary around work. And the thing is that in the past, it was scary to stand up because the larger collective stream was Capricornian, which was one person on top, everyone below. Like, oh, yes, sir. And now the movement is toward cooperation, equalitarianism, human rights. Everyone has rights. Everyone deserves a voice. And so you may become emboldened by the new energy coming through. You may become emboldened by this. So suddenly it's not just you saying, shuffling and mumbling and trying to shuffle around your schedule and make something different work, but you're emboldened by the others who are also saying, no, this doesn't work for me. So something about your work boundaries are going to be really different. And again, it starts now. The other thing that is really coming forward is relationships. Now, you may have, especially the last 4 years, so many people were in such trauma and crisis from COVID, and also from the way that was handled. The way that we did not come together as we were supposed to. We split apart, and the fear and the crisis and the inability to get anything managed in any good way. And I don't mean this politically. This was all across the board. No one knew what they were doing, and everybody did sort of the wrong thing. And it just could have been a lot different, but it wasn't. So a lot of us are still recovering from that, and from a lot of the situations that we faced during this time. A lot of you I know, because I do readings for tons of you, and I know how hard it's been. I know what everyone's been going through. So one of the things that comes up from this is the boundaries that you have in relationship, of how much you're going forward willing to caretake for someone, or take on someone's issues, or support someone financially, or be the doormat for someone who's going through troubles, or deal with someone who still has an addiction issue, even though, you know, they've said they're going to deal with it, or they still have a gaming issue, or they still have a politeness issue. Like, all of these ways that we've been sort of allowing ourselves to be mistreated because it was such a difficult time. And now you're suddenly waking up and going, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. So that this way of over supporting, especially all of you people out there who were like lifting your family up or lifting your friends up during these times, suddenly you're like, okay, did that. And now what's next? And what's next is a time for you to explore who you are in this new energy, So there's going to be a lot of boundaries that come from realizing that the crisis point is actually over. I know it can seem a little like politically we're going into more crisis, but energetically the crisis point, like most of the learning has already happened. And so now we're going to put that into play. I'm going to just read to you a little bit from, this is from the Gabriel messages, and this is the most recent channeling. There is new channeling coming very soon. I'm just going to read a couple of these. This kind of relates to this idea of change that we're in the middle of. So, shedding identities. In a lifetime, you will hold all kinds of positions and identities that will seem very important to you at the time. You may be daughter or son, spouse or partner, worker or boss. You may be lifted by medals and certifications, or laid low by labels and tags. You may work very hard to gain these identities through continuous effort of the mind, ego, personality to conform to the rules and the regulations, and to do what is necessary to earn these labels and tags. Yet at a certain point, sometimes in the midst of an awakening that arrives from sudden trauma, drama, despair, grief, or from simply watching the world spin in all the ways it does, you will wake up to your true nature. And then they continue. I'm going to just read two more. Everything changes. This is where we are now, what I'm reading now. The identity shed, either in a way that is difficult or uncomfortable, or in a way that is very fast and easy, leaving you new. If you are feeling the who you were is starting to slip away, let it. There is no point to grasping when you already know that everything changes. It can do nothing but change. This is the way of flow. Allow yourself to be brave as the identities shed. Do not worry if this is not happening to those you know, or it seems like you are alone on your path. This is how it will seem for a long time. Walking alone, without identity, lost and confused. This is part of the path. Keep going. Oh, I guess I have two more. Okay. Now we'll get the last one is where we're going to work today. So releasing regrets. As you enter into the process of reviewing your life and sorting it into what was then and what is now, you will come across all manner of regret, disillusionment, despair that perhaps you did not do it right, that you made mistakes, that you failed, that you were harmed, or that you caused harm. If you need to make amends for harm you have caused, you can do this now, even if it is embarrassing or awkward. Sounds a little bit like AA or that part. If you have been harmed, you can work with this and allow compassion for yourself and for the other, who also surely suffers. And you can release this shame, regret, hurt, or wound. When you allow yourself to recognize that your life is a multitude of experiences, not just the wounds you keep returning to again and again, this will help with releasing regrets. This is, as we're sort of at year's end, this is a really good time for this. And then finally for today, what you are still stuck on. You must look at what you are still stuck on, what memory or thought or opinion is still holding you back, and you may choose to let this go, like a key turning in a lock and the door swinging wide open. Don't be afraid to look at your stuckness. This is where change starts. Don't be afraid to let go of your stuckness. This is where you begin to become your true self. You are not the measure of so many wounds and mistakes over time, but rather a true self, light being, experiencing everything all at once, with a human heart in a human lifetime. I want to close today. I received a comment from somebody. I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was really funny. It was like, I've been here just a short while in this lifetime compared to all of the many lifetimes that I've had in this world. And I thought that was a really good perspective and a really good way of thinking of it. And I appreciated that they or she wrote it that way. We are getting through all of this change. We've done this a lot, many lifetimes before. This is actually probably one of the better times to be on the planet, because this is a positive change that we're moving into with going into Aquarius. The thing to look at right now is, who am I letting go of? Where are my boundaries for things I no longer accept? And those things are sort of the energy you're feeling. Like, where is your line going forward? That you're not going to be the same as you were, and you're going to claim that. Anyway, I am Sara Wiseman. Go to the website. I teach directly. I teach spiritual intuition in small groups. I also have lots of courses that are super affordable. I also have this book and many other books of channel teachings that it's kind of like a spiritual thought system, and you can find all those on the website, sarawiseman.com. Thanks for listening.